The joint efforts of physicians, biologists, chemists, and IT specialists are required to create cheap quality drugs. ChemRar High-Tech Center is working with this direction. In the last 20 years, it has grown from a small enterprise into one of the new biotechnology cluster's leading companies. The research complex history begins at the turn of the 1990s with the establishment of a small contact service enterprise. When the state stopped financing science, chemists were forced to find funding on their own. In Russia, their services weren't in demand, so the company looked for potential customers abroad. The company's first customers were foreign scientific catalog companies who worked with chemical compounds for scientific experiments.
At first, our competitors were the chemical and biological departments of big pharma companies. We were commissioned to do the things that those departments couldn't cope with. They said, this isn't working, maybe the Russians will have better luck. Let's give it to them. And we did it. Their response was, well now, that's interesting.
Special robots for chemical testing made it possible to conduct over 1,000 trials a day. The demand for new chemical compounds grew rapidly. The main customers at the time were major biotech companies from America, Europe, and Japan.
In response to demand, the Russian chemists invented a combination chemistry. They pioneered the creation of combined collections of substances, potential drugs, and then they sent those substances for high-throughput screening.
Now the collection of molecular compounds constitutes about 1.5 million samples. It is the largest compound library in the world.
Historically, ChemRar grew on the basis of a very large collection of chemical compounds, the so-called library, which was created in Soviet times. Any person, or any company, who had an interest in searching for molecules with potentially interesting biological properties could make use of the library at ChemRar.
The contact service had another advantage, a long history of work with foreign customers. Therefore, all investigations had to be conducted with international quality standards in mind. These contracts for research supplied the company with a stable income.
We did the research and got paid for it. The results of our research belonged to the customers, but we didn't own any part of the rights. The only thing we had were the contacts, but our tasks were becoming more and more integrated.
The company decided to put this experience to use and take on the development of innovative drugs independently. Their foreign colleagues supported this idea.
ChemRar is one of the most promising, research-oriented companies in Russia.
In 1998, the model for scientific and investment development changed. The Center of High Technologies, ChemRar, is created, and its anchor R&D subsidiary, the Chemical Diversity Research Institute Limited. The company had to attract funds of private investors, mainly American, to create a modern research center. The company purchased a rundown laboratory building in the Moscow suburbs, hoping to attract more clients.
We had to renovate the whole building. Almost 500 truckloads of rubbish were taken away, and in 2 years this building was turned into a modern laboratory and production facility.
When the construction was completed, the ChemRar Center of High Technologies moved in. The company's specialists were sent for advanced training to California. After the modernization, ChemRar signed long-term contracts and managed to recover the loans taken for repair and training.
ChemRar is a really big fish in a little pond. In our opinion, it's a really good company, but it is engaged in risky developments.
Now, ChemRar develops treatments for diseases of the central nervous system, oncology, AIDS, hepatitis C, and the new influenza viruses.
The development of new and innovative drugs is a very risky business. According to the industrial statistics, out of 10 new molecules or projects that have previously been tested on animals and in test tubes, only 2 will actually survive inside the human body.
This is why it is necessary to work with the largest possible number of molecules. For various reasons, even major pharmaceutical companies do not always have the opportunity to continue research on all of their projects. The open innovations model can come in handy in this case. Open innovations, used by innovative companies external sources for new inventions and technologies to make their own projects better, and also keeping their own work accessible so as to maximize the income. This means that a company doesn't have to rely solely on its own research, but can count on help from other organizations.
Bill Joy, one of Sun Microsystems' founders, invented this law. He said, "No matter how hard you try, the smartest and best guys are still working for other companies." The technology of open innovations helps to solve this problem. Attracting the smartest people always takes a lot of time and money. However, we can try to get a little bit of their knowledge and competence. The technology of open innovations is responsible for 2 great projects: open source software and Wikipedia. Wikipedia is a real symbol of open innovations, where everyone can bring what they have.
This model in Russia first appeared in ChemRar's cooperation with Roche, a major Swiss pharmaceutical company. Roche gave Russian scientists a molecule with the potential of becoming an AIDS treatment on the terms of the license agreement. In 2009, the Virium company was established on the basis of the Center of High Technologies.
Значит, опыт открытых инноваций – это когда мы сотрудничаем с компанией, где мы видим, что есть потенциал.
The experience of open innovations means collaboration with a company if we see potential, luck and demand. It can be difficult to bring scientists together so that they can work productively in a large team. It seems to me that we've managed it, and I think that it's a very positive experience. And I do hope that this story will end successfully.
Virium company has already completed the first phase of clinical studies of the drug, which confirmed its pharmacological properties and proved its safety. At the second stage, the drug's effectiveness will be tested.
A special board that includes Roche representatives evaluates our work. And we've agreed that this board will check up on our results halfway through, so that we can consider their feedback and then, if necessary, adjust our work accordingly. This works very well.
Virium also obtained the rights to commercialize the drug in Russia, Belarus, Ukraine and Kazakhstan. Roche has retained the rights to distribute the drug in other countries. If the drug is a success, Roche and Virium will pay each other royalties from the sales amount on the territories. Eventually, the companies will continue cooperation in the later phases.
The development of new drugs is not easy. We expect that in some time, Virium will be able to conduct full research that will prove the original concept. That means checking whether the drug works and whether it's safe to use on large populations of HIV patients. This is the first milestone in our work. If it turns out that the drug is effective and safe, then of course we'll go further.
The success and implementation of modern drugs depends on the well-organized work of the science clinical trials production chain. This is why big pharma manufacturers strive to integrate the medicine and bio and information technologies. That's why the ChemRar group of companies recently joined the Northern Biopharmaceutical Cluster established by the Moscow Institute of Physics and Technology.
From the point of view of open innovations, this is the best place for innovation. Because if you want to be in closed innovations, then you don't need to communicate or join any cluster. Here, it's the other way around. We regularly hold conferences so as to give startups the chance to demonstrate their developments and to meet investors and pharmaceutical producers.
For ChemRar, the collaboration had a notable positive effect. The cluster now has contract research organizations situated on its territory which can carry out different research, and the cooperation with the National Research University of the Moscow Institute of Physics and Technology helps solve the personnel problem. Many students during their last academic years begin to work in the companies of the cluster.
The more centers conducting quality research here, the better. They should be setting an example for the whole domestic industry.
ChemRar Group unites almost 20 independent enterprises that can be divided into 3 groups: service companies that conduct testing for foreign customers, startups, profits from which are expected only in a few years, and companies developing and producing import-substituting products. Applying several business models at the same time makes sense, because income received from services can be then invested in startups, which in turn will obtain profits in the future.
We were always developing in response to demand. That is, science wasn't what pushed us forward. Yes, we always look for demand first, and we always try to satisfy that demand, to make a product or offer a service. So we develop in response to this demand, and since it always came from Western companies, we had to live up to Western standards. Otherwise, nobody would have paid us.
After the construction and operation of its own research laboratory complex, it occurred to the company's executives to create another subsidiary, GXP Engineering. It offers services in designing similar buildings and clean premises.
No other company in Russia can design ChemRar-type buildings. People can build shopping centers and apartment buildings, but nobody knows how to build sophisticated laboratories with industrial equipment. So this company's services are in great demand, and we're currently designing similar centers in the Moscow Institute of Physics and Technology and in Yaroslavl and Volgograd.
While import substitution in Russia is still weak, ChemRar plans to develop this particular segment, and at the same time the company is engaged in innovative drugs development. And in 5 or 6 years, when the competition between pharma producers will increase, the company will earn on innovative patented drugs. There is hope that Russia will soon have twice the amount of high-quality affordable drugs it has today.